We're back for our daily college basketball best bets here for Tuesday, November 4th. We've got a bunch of college basketball today, not as much as yesterday, but still a good amount of games as we have now officially kicked off the college basketball season. Yesterday, a 2-3 day, but, first day of the season, a little shaky at times. It's okay. FAU came through, big win for those guys over there, and another big win with Ball State and Muncie, Indiana. So, again, looking to improve on yesterday's performance. We just got off to a rough start with the early 8 a.m. games. Those games just... we didn't have a great start today. We finished pretty well. Again, looking for some more success here on Tuesday. Again, folks, before we get into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. We're taking this all the way through March Madness, so you're not going to want to miss every single day college basketball best bets. Also on the channel later today, our daily NBA best bets. Both those, again, college basketball, NBA best bets every single day here on the channel. Also, yesterday we posted our college football predictions for week number 11. That video is over 4 hours long as we predicted every single college football game. That is linked in the description down below. Also, NFL predictions later today on the channel and on Greedo Plays MMA, our UFC Fight Night Bonfim versus Brown. Full card predictions, those are linked in the description down below. Okay, on to the first now of our 5 best bets for this college basketball slate here on Tuesday, November 4th. Kicking things off at Mackey Arena in West Lafayette, Indiana, as the Purdue Boilermakers take on the Evansville Purple Aces. Now, as an Indiana guy, it kind of pains me to say, but it is the truth. I believe Purdue's the best lineup in college basketball. I mean, they've gotten better since last year. All their guys are back for the most part. I know you lose some pieces, but I mean, Braden Smith's still here, Fletcher Lawyer's still here, Trey Kaufman-Renn, and again, I'm high on the Jackrabbits. Shout out to their big one yesterday over Merrimack, but they added Oscar Clough as the South Dakota State center through the lineage of great bigs at SDSU, Mike Daum, then Oscar Clough. Purdue added him this offseason, and he's obviously going to be starting at the 5. There's a couple freshmen that I like on this team as well. But just when you look at it, this starting lineup, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, CJ Cox, Trey Kaufman-Renn, Oscar Clough. Yeah, and I get it. This is a 31.5 point spread. It's probably going to be the longest, 32.5 point spread, excuse me. It's going to be the longest spread you see me pick this entire season. I can almost guarantee that likely. That's just how good Purdue is. And until I'm proven otherwise here, and again, it pains me to say this because, I hope Indiana can finally get Purdue, on the hardwood this year, but it probably won't. This is the best team in college basketball for now. It is. You look at what they did last season with all that talent again. Fell short ultimately, right? I mean, Purdue goes to they lost in Sweet 16 because they ran into Houston. Again, they were underperformers in the regular season, don't get me wrong, right? They did lose in Bloomington, but I mean, I was talking about maybe a sweep this year. I don't know. Again, Indiana beat them last year once, but one team made the tournament and one didn't. So that's what I mean by that. Purdue was bad in the second half of last season. Don't get me wrong, right? They won that big stretch where they lost, 4 straight games, was it, en route to the Big Ten tournament where they lost to Michigan. Obviously, they get into the tournament. They beat McNeese and High Point before losing it to the Houston Cougars. But here in 2025, right, again, you just bring back all of this talent. Trey Kaufman-Renn last year was a 20 points per game scorer. Braden Smith is one of the better guards and point guards in all of college basketball. Fletcher Lawyer is a very good guard as well. CJ Cox comes back for his sophomore season, and I'm telling you, the Oscar Clough edition is massive for this team. It gives them a true big and a true 5. That's going to be huge for the Boilermakers. And if, I know it's a 32.5 point spread. It's a ridiculous line. They're the best team in college basketball, taking on, unfortunately, a really bad college basketball team, in my opinion, in Evansville. And maybe I'm overlooking the not the Blue Aces. I messed up their name. The Purple Aces. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm overlooking them there. Maybe I'm overlooking them here. Maybe this is going to be, a Bethune-Cookman situation. Or Bethune-Cookman going into overtime yesterday with Penn State. Are we serious? How does that happen? UAB, by the way, again, quick side note. UAB lost to a D2 school yesterday. It's what happens when Yaxel Lindenberg leaves. They lose to Division II schools over there at Alabama, Birmingham. My goodness. Anyways, though, this is the best team in college basketball. It undoubtedly is. Did I say Bethune-Cookman almost lost to, or almost beat, I did. I said they almost beat Penn State. They almost beat Auburn. Penn State almost lost to Fairfield, in all fairness. They were close to with Fairfield for a very long time in that game. Anyways, though, This is one of the better teams in college basketball. No, this is the best team in college basketball at Purdue. For Evansville, I mean, maybe I'm overlooking them, but all of their best players last year are no longer on the team, and that is just a result of mid-major basketball, don't get me wrong, but Tayshawn Comer is now at Nevada. He was from Indiana, obviously not from Evansville, but from Indianapolis. He left. Gabriel Posado, the Italian forward for the Purple Aces last year, is now at Xavier. And this is just, again, this is a result of what happens when you don't win basketball games. Cam Hafner is at WKU as well. That's what happens when you're a mid-major program that doesn't win, and that's what the Purple Aces were last season. I witnessed them last year, and this is actually one of my biggest reasons to going with Purdue here. I get it, different teams, but same kind of deal. I watched Evansville go into Columbus last year and lose to Ohio State by 50 points. And Ohio State was very underwhelming at times last season, and the Buckeyes beat Evansville in November by 50. They beat them 80-30 last year. That's a real score that happened, right? So I think Purdue should take care of business here. I get it. There's not huge roster turnover at all for the Purple Aces, but that's the thing about Purdue. Everyone's coming back. Additionally, you return 4 starters, and you get a very good center and the best player, or one of the best players last year in the Summit League, in Oscar Clough, the Australian 5. That's such a big addition to this team, and I'm telling you again, Braden Smith being back, Fletcher Lawyer being back, it pains me to say, but this is legitimately one of the best teams in college basketball. They added Liam Murphy as well, who was a pretty big player last season for North Florida. So there's another guy off the bench that they get. Again, the rich get richer. There's a reason Purdue is by far the favorites to win the NCAA tournament this year. They're at Mackey. They're at home. Again, we're going to see this bench unit play quite a bit because this game will be over within the first 10 minutes. But give me Purdue to blow out the Evansville Purple Aces. I'm taking the Boilermakers minus 32.5. Again, probably the largest spread we're going to take all year long, but I will take it with the number 1 team in the country in Purdue. Next up, we move on to a matchup here in Wichita, Kansas between the UNC Asheville Bulldogs and the Wichita State Shockers. Now, I believe UNC Asheville actually changed their logo in the offseason, but whatever. I couldn't find a high-quality picture for that or image for that, so we're going to roll with their logo from last year, maybe change that later down the year. But anyways, we've got the Big South's own in UNC Asheville, a team last season that got off to a really hot start in the Big South, won a big game early in the season against High Point. I believe High Point is probably going to rule over the Big South for a very long time just because they have way more resources and let's just say it, way more money than a lot of these other programs in the Big South. So I think that's going to be theirs for quite a bit. But UNC Asheville last season split with High Point, played a game at High Point in the road late in the season and only lost it by 4 points in OT. They lost 104-100. And unfortunately for the Bulldogs, their season kind of just crumbled from there. They ended up getting second rounded in the Big South tournament to Winthrop after beating the Charleston Southern Buccaneers in the first round. And now you lose your primary scorer last season, UNC Asheville. They lost Jordan Marsh. Combined his last name with the school's name. Yeah, Jordan Marsh, a 19 points per game scorer last season for the Bulldogs, is now at USC, the 5'11 guard. Very undersized, don't get me wrong, and it'll be kind of interesting to see how he can play in the Big Ten, but Marsh, 5'11", 145, now playing at USC. But that was your primary ball handler, obviously, last season. And he was a guy who was putting up many shots for them on a nightly basis. You'd see upwards of 12 three-pointers a game for Jordan Marsh. Taking over, I would say, as the number 1 scorer for this team now is going to be Toyaz Solomon, who was on the Bulldogs last season. He was a 16 points per game scorer. Really saw a very increased role as the season went on. I mean, he was playing 40-minute nights late in the season, 35-minute nights, and down the stretch of the regular season. He's a guy who's going to be on the court at all times, in my opinion, for the Bulldogs. Again, he returns for his senior season. A lot of UNC Asheville's top players have either graduated or left. Obviously, Jordan Marsh to USC. Josh Banks was one of their primary players. He graduated. And sure, again, I can all the time tell you, again, this is just how mid-major basketball works. But the fact that you bring back a player like Solomon that can score for you is big time. He was really leading the charge for the Bulldogs in the Big South tournament. And I know, again, they went down to Winthrop in the second round and actually got blown out by Winthrop. But in that, Charleston Southern game, he goes out and scores 20-plus points. The Winthrop game, he was really the only one contributing, and it felt like in a big blowout loss for them and a disappointing end to their season. But anyways, they take on here the Wichita State Shockers. And I look at Wichita, at least preseason-wise, and just, pure depth chart and roster-wise, and I'm like, who's scoring for the Wichita State Shockers? I don't know. Because I look at their current roster, and you look at least compared to what they did last season, they were a very off and on team in the American Conference. It felt like every big game Wichita had, every high scoring game the Shockers had, they would always fall short. And even just, I mean, I mean, kind of just, I'm about to explain them like they were just horrible, but hear me out here. Every high scoring game, Wichita just couldn't keep up, and they would lose by like 10 points, and they barely like find ways to lose the low scoring games as well. So obviously there's some, there's a middle number there, there's a median and all within all that, but Wichita loses some of their best players. Xavier Bell graduates. Corey Washington goes to Southern Methodist. Lost a couple other guys too. Quincy Ballard's at Mississippi State, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's at Mississippi State. Justin Hill as well has moved on. He has graduated. So you lose a lot of your top scorers, and I'm looking at the new Wichita roster. I'm just like, where is this production going to come from? Immediately, I look at Keon Giles, who played at UNC Greensboro last year and scored 15 points a game over there. He was a Radford transfer who went to UNC Greensboro. I guess he's probably your best guy, averaged 15 points a game last season. Other than him, though, I'm like, okay, well, they've Karan Boyd, who averaged 9 points a game last year. He came from Eastern Tennessee. Michael Gray is from Nichols, averaged 11 points. But again, both him and Giles are ones, so are they really both going to be on the court at the same time? I don't know. Brian Amunike comes from Amunike comes from Fresno State. Obviously, Fresno State had a lot of controversy around them, let's say, because of their gambling scandal. But Amunike saw a big increase in minutes as the season went on, as some of the other Fresno players got banned from collegiate sports, or at least in the NCAA. So Amunike saw a huge increase in minutes as the season went on. Obviously, Fresno was not a winning program at all last season, and I don't expect the Bulldogs to do all that well in the Mountain West this year either, even though I love Mountain West hoops, don't get me wrong. But Amunike did all right for Fresno State second half of last season. Gets a shot now with Wichita State. He's only a sophomore from Los Angeles. I think he's going to be a guy who can score, but again, a lot of their best scorers are going to be 6'1" and 5'10" point guards, which that can work obviously, but having multiple of those guys, I don't know if I like that. Again, I really feel like scoring is going to be somewhat of a problem for Wichita State. They bring in Will Berg, who got pushed out at Wichita State, or not Wichita State, sorry, he's at Wichita now. Got pushed out of Purdue just because he wasn't going to get playing time there and really never got PT for the Boilermakers, so he's a 7'2" center from Stockholm, Sweden that's around. But that's why I'm going to take UNC Asheville here, guys. I don't know how Wichita is really going to score. I know what UNC Asheville does. If last year's anything to show, they put up points. And they will score, and they will run in transition. They, again, will put up high numbers. And I don't really love Wichita in that spot, especially too when they are really figuring out who our lead guy is going to be. Again, yes, Jordan Marsh leaving sucks for UNC Asheville. Toya Solomon's still around, though, and I think that the Bulldogs are going to be able to cover here on the road. I'm taking Wichita State plus 7.5 here on the road at Wichita. I think it's a very manageable spot for them coming out of the Big South. So give me UNC Asheville. Same spread, same play. Plus 7.5 now in our next game as we go to Valparaiso, Indiana for Valpo. Taking on Eastern Illinois. I'm taking the Panthers. Guys, it's time to fade Valpo again. We faded Valpo quite a bit last season, just because I never think Valpo is very good. We're doing the same thing again here now. Valparaiso, I mean, here's just the story of mid-major basketball. Loses all of their best players. They had 3 guys who really stuck out more than others. Actually, 4, if you want to include Tyler Schmidt. Anyways, all 4 of their top players and top scorers and just, again, top contributors left the team. They're all gone. They all went to, for the most part, better opportunities. Their 5th rotational guy, their 5th starter, and Darius DeViro has graduated, but Valparaiso loses, the number 1 player on their team, in my opinion, Cooper Schwager. He is now at Wake Forest. He was a 16 points per game scorer for them last year, and he was their best guy. Had a game against the UIC Flames last year where he scored 33 points. Schwager is now at Wake Forest. All right, transferred to play for Xavier. He was another big scorer for them. Put up multiple 20-point nights, especially in the tournament last year, in the Missouri Valley Tournament for Valparaiso. Jefferson De La Cruz Moneghetto is gone as well. He went to Cal State Fullerton, which is an interesting move, but he just played a lot. He was a very defensive-minded player for them, at least. Would take a couple three-pointers per game, but would play big minutes and be a big factor defensively for that team. He's gone, though. He's at Cal State Fullerton. And then Tyler Schmidt, one of their other guards, is now at Townsend, or Tucson, however you want to say it. I still don't know how to pronounce whatever. He's gone as well. So you lose your 5 starters, and Valpo now completely needs to rebuild this thing. And again, that's just college basketball in 2025. But first home game, new team, taking on the Eastern Illinois Panthers. And same thing can be said about East Illinois. They're missing some players, but Cooper Jacoby's back. He is back. He was one of their best scorers last season, at least throughout the entire course of the year. Kind of cooled off as the season went on, but this is a 12 points per game scorer for the Panthers. He has returned. The number 1 scorer, though, for East Illinois is gone. That would be Nikhil Shelton. He is now at Loyola Marymount, averaged 17 points per game last season, played 35 minutes a game, and put up big-time numbers, especially as that season went on into the Ohio Valley tournament. But I just think 7.5 points is too many for Valparaiso here. Was East Illinois a unit in the OVC last year? Not really. They caught fire at the right time, and again, that is a lot of Shelton's doing, as they won 4 consecutive games to end their season. And the Ohio Valley's, it's an odd conference, I'll say that. There's a lot of teams that we don't really feature that much. You get some weird squads like, the Screaming Eagles of Southern Indiana. You'll get, the Western Illinois Leathernecks. You'll get the Tennessee Tech. What are they? Not the Titans. They're the Eagles, right? Their logo is really cool. They're the Falcons of the Eagles. They're the Golden Eagles. They lost to WKU yesterday, right? You just get teams that are just kind of random, and obviously it's a 1-bid OVC, obviously. And these, whoever wins the OVC is likely a 16 or 15 seed, pretty much a 15 seed every single year. But Valparaiso is bottom of the barrel in the Missouri Valley. They've been bottom of the barrel for a very long time. Valparaiso. They've been bottom of the barrel for a little bit now. And again, I just think it's a factor. You lose all 5 of your guys the last season. I mean, Schwager played big minutes for that team last year. He was their leading rebound getter too. Like, if you watched Valpo basketball last season, it was all him. It was, Jefferson De La Cruz. It was All Right was a big factor on the team, and you are completely rebuilding your identity and completely having to shift everything around. And sure, the game is in Indiana. But I think 7.5 points is just way too many. I do think that Eastern Illinois is going to be able to stay in this basketball game. I think, getting a, kind of like we talked about in the previous game, getting a guy who is returning to your team, who is able to put up pretty big minutes for you and play big minutes and put up pretty big stats for you, in Cooper Jacoby, who averaged 12 points a game and 9 rebounds a game. He was a starter all year long for them. I think that's a big deal. Valparaiso lost so many guys. Hell, again, Tyler Schmidt leaves this team. He was a starter for them last year, and he's now at Townsend. This guy, by the way, played his first game for Townsend yesterday. Only played 13 minutes and scored 2 points. Put that out there. But, and I get it, Townsend was really good last season. Tyler Schmidt's from Valparaiso, and he left to go play 13 minutes a game against Loyola Maryland in his first game over the Townsend Tigers. Again, I don't know what Valpo's going on. Obviously, guys want to leave this program. They've kind of just been very for a long time, at least last couple of years in the Missouri Valley Conference. I don't think that changes this year. I'm going to go Eastern Illinois here on the road to cover the 7.5 points against Valpo. I think it's a fairly easy pick in my opinion. I don't think Eastern Illinois is that much worse than Valpo. I get it, Valpo's at home, but I don't think they're able to get away by 8 points here at home. I'm going to go with the Panthers of Eastern Illinois to cover the 7.5. Next up, we move on to the ACC. Again, yes, the Atlantic Coast Conference on the Atlantic Coast Conference Network. We have got the Stanford Cardinal hosting the Portland State Vikings. I'm going Portland State plus 11.5. This is not really as much as this is not as much about Portland State as it is about Stanford, but hear me out here. Portland State does return some big-time players on this team this season, something that you're not going to see out of a lot of Big Sky schools. Portland State brings back Jalen Henderson, who averaged 13 points a game for them last season. Terry Miller averaged 12 points a game. He's back as well. And Trayvon Minott, who was a big-time board getter for this team. He was their starting center last year, averaged 8 and 8. He is back as well. And he was a former South Carolina player too. Yeah, Portland State, in an era of college basketball where bringing guys back is very rare, Portland State did that. And they're taking on a Stanford Cardinal team who I'm not over the moon about. I mean, obviously, the biggest loss for Stanford in the offseason was Maxime Reynaud. He's obviously now with the Sacramento Kings in the NBA. You also lose Jalen Blakes. You lost Josiah Sellers as well. And now I don't know. I thought Benny Gieler was a senior last season. I mean, I'm pretty confident he was. Maybe he got an extra year like Trey Galloway did. I don't know. Like Trey Galloway, by the way, has finally left college basketball. Felt like he's been playing college basketball since I was like 5 years old. I'm joking, but still. Benny Gieler's back. Great. I believe they're going to be starting Anthony Batson at the 2. Ryan Argawal was playing somewhat of a kind of a bench role last season. He would start some games and bring them, again, when he was off the bench, brought them a great spark. He should be starting the season. They're going to be starting Donovan Young at the 4 and then Aiden Kamen at the 5. Stanford didn't do that much in the portal in the offseason. Chizumak Para, by the way, is back. I believe he's going to be coming off the bench this season. But Stanford didn't do much in the portal. Obviously, it's kind of a tough sell considering, I mean, I won't be attending this game. But, I mean, go, and I've attended Stanford basketball games in the past. Watch a Stanford game on TV. The second they pan to the crowd, and they try not to on ESPN, usually that's where Stanford games are at, because, I mean, they don't ever get, like, big-time broadcasts. Well, obviously ESPN takes the ACC, but anyways, if they watch on the ACC network or ESPN, they pan to the Stanford crowd. There is not a single soul in that building. Like, I think it's bad at Haas sometimes at Berkeley. No, it is the worst at Stanford. Stanford's crowds, in my opinion, are, again, they might technically put more people in the seats, but I legitimately, after going to Stanford, SJSU, and Santa Clara games, by far the worst environment out of the 3 is not even close. It's Stanford. So it's a dead crowd. Yes, you're an ACC school, but you're bottom of the barrel. You get beat up. You got to go cross country 15 times a season. It's a hard sell to get guys to come here. And they're taking on Portland State, a team, again, that has retained all of their best guys. Again, experience and team chemistry is a big deal in college basketball. And it's not like Portland State was horrible last season. They were a middle of the pack, maybe higher end Big Sky team. They did get first rounded in the Big Sky tournament as they lost to Idaho, but they were an 11-7 team. They obviously beat up on the lower level teams like Sacramento State and company, like the Lumberjacks of NAU who covered yesterday in their game against Drake. But anyways, getting this unit, this all-around, 5-man rotation or 5-man unit and this all-around rotation another season with each other is actually such a big deal. Again, you had games where Terry Miller would drop 28 points. Jalen Henderson obviously was doing most of the work, but towards the end of the season, it was a lot of Miller. It was Isaiah Johnson, who did graduate now. But again, you bring back a lot of players. They add some pieces as well. I think Portland State's doing it the right way in the Big Sky, and this is just, again, what college basketball is. You need guys to buy into what you're putting forward here. Because we talked about Valparaiso, we talked about hell with Eastern Illinois. You have so many guys who are just so quick to jump and find their next path and find their next stepping stone, essentially, or their next team in college basketball. Jalen Henderson's a senior. He decided, no, I'm going to come back. I'm going to start every single game. Terry Miller is a senior. He decided to come back and play here. Trayvon Minott, senior. You have 3 senior starters who are returning this season. I mean, you're rare to find 3 seniors in general on any team, whether they be bench players, starters, rotational pieces, bench warmers, doesn't matter. You're hard-pressed to find just 3 straight seniors on any roster to come back and return. I think Portland State's got a very good team, man. I really think so. I think they're going to do some damage in the Big Sky this season, and this is going to be a very close game. Guys, I watched Stanford last year play Norfolk State, who was good last year. Shout out to Brian Moore over there and Norfolk State and, MEAC champs. But I watched Stanford have home games where they took on, albeit the MEAC champions, but down to the wire and almost lost to Norfolk State. And they're taking on a Portland State team that's already very comfortable playing with each other. A lot of minutes behind them. A team that, again, brought back so many pieces. I like Portland State a lot. Like, they brought back most of their bench unit, too. This is a team that is going to be good this season, believe you me. They brought in Keon Kenzie from USD as well. I don't know how big of a factor he's going to be. Great guard play, though, in my opinion, for Portland State. And Stanford, again, I don't love the starting lineup. Guys, last season they were so dependent on Maxime Reynaud, and obviously, right, Maxime Reynaud is now now with the Sacramento Kings. It makes sense that they were really dependent on him. But now, where do you get that major source of offense? I mean, it is Ryan Argawal, in my opinion. I think Argawal is going to be a massive part of the squad. His shooting ability and really just his all-around play, I believe, is going to be probably the best on this team. They're starting Aiden Kamen at the 5, I think. He has been at Stanford for a season. Didn't really play that, or did play quite a bit last season, but didn't put up the biggest numbers, obviously, because he was sitting behind Raynaud. Yeah, I just don't love the Stanford lineup, and I really like what's going on at Portland State. So I'm going to be going with the Vikings here. Give me Portland State on the road here at the Farm. I think they cover the 11.5 points. That line to me is just kind of ridiculous, and I do believe actually this is probably the best line we're going to get all day long. Portland State plus 11.5. Like, this is my favorite bet of the video. Give me the Vikings plus 11.5 on the road at Stanford. Again, you are hard-pressed to find mid-majors who are comfortable with each other and have already played and have chemistry with each other going into game one. That's what Portland State has. So give me the Vikings here at Stanford. Our final best bet of the video, we go to Eugene, Oregon, as we've got the Oregon Ducks hosting the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Give me Oregon. I like what Oregon's returning this season, man. I don't know how Nate Biddle isn't like 50 years old yet. I mean, just off of appearance right away. Again, credit to the man. He's a college basketball player. I mean, dude looks like he's, 40, give or take. And he's been around college basketball for a bit, but Nate Biddle has returned. Jackson Shellstad, who had some big-time moments and big-time games last season for Oregon, is back as well. So right away, again, you bring those two guys back, you're in a very good position. Oregon had their moments last season. They had their struggles, obviously, but this was still a tournament team. They beat Liberty in the first round in a game where I thought maybe Liberty could get them. But Oregon, really turned it up in the tail half of last season, winning 8 straight games to get into the NCAA tournament. Obviously, went into the Big Ten tourney, beat Indiana in their first round game, and then lost, obviously, to Michigan State. But this is a good Oregon team that returns their 2 best guys in Shellstad and Biddle. Biddle can, he is a big night waiting to happen if you don't have a 5 that can contain him. And Jackson Shellstad can create for his own shot. He's pretty dominant. And also, I mean, the portal moves they made, I like TK Simpkins. I like TK Simpkins joining this team quite a bit. That's a very big pickup for the squad. Simpkins is from Elon, played huge minutes for that team last season. Takai Simpkins averaged 17 points per game. That's big time. That is. And again, coming from Elon, obviously a very low, lower level. The CAA last year was a dogfight, don't get me wrong. But adding a player who can create for his own shot, senior season TK Simpkins, or Takai Simpkins, whatever he's going by, that's a pretty big deal in my opinion. They have Texas transfer Devon Pryor now at the 3 as well. Again, Oregon expected to, improve in the portal. We'll see what Pryor is going to be. Pryor did not play the biggest minutes at Texas, just got, kind of flushed out in that rotation. Averaged 12 minutes a game, but towards the end of the season, he was really just getting those end-of-game minutes. So we'll see what Devon Pryor is, though, but he is projected to start for the Oregon Ducks this season. And then you obviously fill out the starting lineup with the returning KJ Evans and obviously Nate Biddle at the 5. For the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, just losing a lot of players. Tanner Christensen was the heart and soul, it felt like, last season of the Rainbow Warriors. He is gone. Him and Braden Traeger were just like the 2 top guys on campus, it felt like, last season. But Hawaii, there's more factors about the Rainbow Warriors than just basketball. They have to go across the Pacific Ocean. And that's always a thing, like when teams come into Hawaii, and I say this all the time with any sport with the Rainbow Warriors, well, basketball and football mainly. Officiating in Hawaii games is ridiculous. They get the benefit of the doubt on every single call, and you have to watch the game on Spectrum Sports Network, and you're watching the hometown broadcast every single time. My point with all that being, though, Hawaii is a much worse team on the road than they are at home. Now, they do bring back their Lithuanian product, Gytis Niemeska. Niemeska had a very big second half of the season for the Rainbow Warriors. Really came on as of late in that year. He's back, so there's that. He was a 12 points per game scorer. Other than that, though, I'm not really too fond of this Hawaii squad. I think, again, Christensen did a lot for that team down low, grabbed a bunch of rebounds. You're taking on an Oregon team that is much improved from last year. And I think that run Oregon went on towards the tail end of last season to make their push and to solidify their spot in the NCAA tournament. And sure, again, they were a second-round exit. I get that. But that push was so huge for them because obviously that builds you or gives you such positive momentum going into the portal. Shellstad's back. I'm a little interested to see how Shellstad and Takai Simpkins are going to be in that same lineup, because Simpkins is actually the bigger player. Shellstad's going to play the 2, but Shellstad's 6'1", Simpkins is 6'4", and they are 2 kind of ball-dominant guys. Obviously, not really. Yeah, Takai Simpkins will be more ball dominant in my opinion, but I think they'll be fine. Again, I'm interested to see how that's going to work. Obviously, I know Nate Biddle is going to play a huge factor in their success, and again, I think a lot of their success hinges on him. But in terms of this game, yeah, who's going to stop Nate Biddle from Hawaii? Legitimately. I mean, that's a question you have to ask yourself a lot when you look at Hawaii Rainbow Warriors basketball. I assume their Hawaii's transfer from Utah State and former Oregon Duck Isaac Johnson is going to be given that assignment. I think he's going to be starting this season for them. 7 feet tall from American Fork, Utah. I assume he's going to be their starting 5. Yeah, good luck with Nate Biddle. We'll see. Again, former Oregon Duck revenge game in a senior season playing for the Rainbow Warriors this year. Again, played the Mountain West last year for Utah State. We shall see. Started some games actually as well for the Aggies. That'll be a matchup, but I do think Oregon's going to dominate this basketball game again. The Rainbow Warriors going across the Pacific Ocean. I like the Ducks. I'm going to go Oregon at home in Eugene at -12 against the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Folks, thank y'all for watching our college basketball best bets here for November 4th. If you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back tomorrow for more daily college basketball best bets. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.